PPP, the MCO is going to provide options counseling to better understand the difference between the two programs, which we just talked through, and also to ensure that there is some clarification about what choices you're making. So to start, the authorized hours that were determined by the PCA assessment tool, that piece will be determined at the beginning of your process. So the assessment has occurred, you get your hours. Through the options counseling process, you're going to have that opportunity to talk through PCA agency, or if you prefer to do it through the personal preference program. Now, once that decision is made to enroll in personal preference program, the PCA hours will be converted into a monthly budget. And the PCA hours are calculated into a dollar amount, and that is what will be used to pay for services. So for this model, members are not necessarily restricted to purchase the same amount of hours that they were authorized for. So that's part of the options here for a little, unique planning for yourself. So Sarah meets with her health plan. She finds out she's eligible for 25 hours. Through the options counseling process, she went through the following checklist. So talk through the budget calculation process. Want to talk through what it means to be the employer of record. Talk through the role of the authorized representative and whether or not that's a choice that Sarah may want to make. And then finally, there'll be completion of the forms for enrollment processing. So let's dive in and see what types of information she'll receive in making her option and selecting her decision. So first we want to talk through the calculation process. So this is how, as it's where the sausage is made, essentially. This is the calculation that is used to create a budget. So step one, PCA hours. So that's the hours from the assessment. And then it's going to be multiplied by the PCA reimbursement rate. This rate right here, the 1989, is the current reimbursement rate that is in place for anyone enrolling in PPP and developing their budget. So hours by $19.89. It's going to equal $497.25. So this is the rate based on 25 hours per week. Step two, we're going to extrapolate that amount and we're going to calculate it for the entire month. So the calculation rate for doing it for a whole month, we use 4.33. That's to ensure that it spreads out across a 31-day month. Just in case, we have some that are only 30. So we want to make sure that we are including all of the dates within that time. So we're going to take that weekly rate times 4.33. This is now our current budget amount. Step three, we're going to take that amount and we're going to calculate out 12.5% that is used for administrative costs and different tasks that are associated with being the employer of record. So we take that amount here, the $21.53.09. We're going to do a multiply it by 0.875 to determine that $1,883.95 is the monthly cash grant amount for Sarah. This dollar amount is what everything will be billed against as she builds out her CMP or cash management plan. So as I said, this is the cashed out benefit, and this is what she can use to make purchases of services through PPP. I did want to note that our wages are the lowest you can pay someone in PPP at this time is the minimum wage, which was just updated to $15.49 by law, and cannot exceed $25 per hour. So I'm going to take that to our next point, but wanted to clarify here where when you have a set budget amount, the wage that you pay someone, the wage that you pay someone will factors in to that budget amount and how many accessible services can be purchased based on that wage. So if the wage is higher, there's less available funds for additional hours. So if you're paying someone for 5 hours at $10 an hour, I'm doing really bad math, you're at $50, and you can say, oh, great, I'm going to pay $10 an hour for 5 hours. If the wage increases to $1, but the budget is still $500, it'll be 9 point something hours as opposed to 10, because it's no longer a $10 hourly wage, it's an $11 hourly wage. We can dig into that a little further in the Q&A, but I wanted to set the stage around that question. So what does it mean to be the employer of record in PPP? So in PPP, Sarah will have responsibilities, choice and freedom in terms of the services she receives, and whether or not she wants to be an authorized representative. Now, I want to be clear about something in the part of the employer of record in PPP. PPP utilizes 2 different authorities. We have employer and budget authority. In this circumstance, this determines that the employer of record will always be the PPP participant themselves. That'll be their federal employee identification number will be retrieved for the individual enrolled in Medicaid. An authorized representative speaks on behalf of the employer of record, but the federal employee identification number and the program itself aligns with the participant only. So I wanted to clarify that, yes, you can have an authorized representative, but the employer of record as far as this program must be the Medicaid member / PPP participant. So as an employer of record, there are a lot of different items that need to be managed. A few of those things are it's part of running a small business. Now, with a small business, there are things such as bookkeeping, taxes, payroll, workers' compensation, and additional overhead. So these pieces are deducted from the budget, including payroll taxes, workers' compensation, and check processing fees. So that dollar amount that we just looked at on this page, where I said this is the budget, these are the items that will be billed out of that budget to participate in the program. So whatever is left after these fees, the balance is what can be applied to services, essentially hiring and employing someone to provide your services so that you remain in the community. So I want to talk through the role of the authorized representative. So in this case, Sarah has the option to appoint someone, or she may be asked to choose to appoint an authorized representative if for some reason there is an additional need for support. But this is an item that the health plan and Sarah, in this situation, a new enrollee, will discuss the role of the authorized representative. A couple notes here that the AR has to be 18 years of age, over 18 years of age, and that the participant knows the person. It's a trusted family member or friend, someone that the participant is comfortable with providing care, as you know, helping them provide support for running the program. Couple things of note: the authorized representative can never work for the participant, and they cannot be paid to act as the authorized representative. And additionally, the AR is going to support the participant to fulfill other requirements. So because of that, the authorized representative needs to be active and readily available to provide participants necessary support. Our goal and preference, we do have rules regarding the AR's distance, prefer to live within 1 hour or 30 miles from the participant and visit the member at least once every 2 weeks. The goal here is to ensure that the person that is supporting the individual is clearly understanding how the services are being used. They're helping with oversight of the program and ensuring that the member is accessing services from the folks that they hire. So a couple more pieces related to that role. So they're also going to assist with paperwork, hiring and supervising workers, services from providers, timesheets and invoices, and then any sort of public partnership, customer service agent, financial consultant issues that come up. So it's a very involved role when that is the choice that is made by the participant. The AR must be present for scheduled visits and calls with the financial consultant because they are essentially speaking on behalf of the member. The AR also will meet during enrollment to ensure that the AR understands the different roles and responsibilities when selecting to be this option or to be this person. We're also, there is a designation of representative form that will be signed and submitted, clarifying that the authorized representative understands the tasks in front of them and is committing to providing this support. So let's do a kind of a quick walkthrough of some basics around the enrollment process. So first, there's completing the options counseling with the health plan. Now for Sarah, she really was open to this idea. She really likes the fact that she can direct her own program and be the employer of record for herself. After talking through the authorized representative process, she realizes she doesn't require the assistance, but happy to know that the option is available if the need arises. So Sarah then completes the enrollment paperwork, and her health plan facilitates the next steps of the enrollment process. So the enrollment process. So we built this out step by step to provide context to the different moving parts that occur when an individual, the health plan, completes their options counseling. They have their PCA assessment done, and the health plan will calculate the cash management plan. So Sarah reaches out. She's like, hey, I think I would like some PCA assistance. I need an assessment and, maybe like to learn a little something more about the PPP program. The MCO is going to complete that assessment with Sarah, and then they're going to send over the enrollment request over to PPL, and they're going to begin the enrollment process on their end. So that's essentially the trigger in the process to move to the next piece. So PPL is going to accept that data transmittal, and then they're going to begin their part of establishing Sarah as a business owner. So once Sarah is entered into the portal, and then she's assigned a financial consultant who's going to be her support through the enrollment process. PPL does offer a dedicated support person during this initial process so that that caseload is only specific to folks that are coming into the program. So the financial consultant reaches out to Sarah, and they're going to do their initial phone call to complete paperwork. So it's going to include some of the different items here, such as the federal employee identification number. We're going to establish that. Request workers' compensation policy and get that cash management plan ready to go, working directly with the individual or authorized representative, determining how to use those service budget hours. If a potential employee is available, it would be great if that person could attend that meeting as well to help with the enrollment. Employees can be added later, but during an initial enrollment, the ability to get as much information in during that process and that meeting is really helpful to supporting a successful and timely admission, or I'm sorry, approval and beginning to use your the PPP. So then moving into the next piece, all the documents are in portal, the employee identification number is there, and they've applied for workers' comp. That will be, once those pieces are in place, an individual should have their budget in place, their workers hired, and are ready to begin receiving their personal care assistance services through PPP. A date, it's called the start date, is a call that'll be made to the individual or the authorized representative, letting them know that they are now ready to begin utilizing PPP. And then PPL will send the MCOs a list of all their new folks that they're ready to start on the first of the month. So PPL lets the health plan know, and you should receive clarification that when your start date is from your financial consultant. And then once the budget is finalized, Sarah is ready to enroll and ready to go. So these are the different pieces that wanted to kind of show where the ownership lies in each piece here. So that might be a little helpful if you're hearing an update, you don't quite know contextually where that is in the process. So I wanted to share these quick contact information, but I think what I'd like to do, if it's okay, is stop sharing, go to our Q&A, and make sure that we'll be sure to put all this contact information, either share it as a follow-up, or we'll make sure that you receive it in either an email follow-up, because we really want to hear. We have a dedicated email, we have our hotline, and we want to make sure that we're attuned with the issues that are coming through. So no further ado, I'm going to stop sharing. Put my mug back up. Hello. Thank you for indulging me while I went through the presentation. And now I'm going to start working through our Q&A. Got a few kid questions. So will slides be available to us? We can definitely share the presentation. It's also posted on our PPP webpage. We do have a pretty easy one. It's ppp.nj.gov. And if you want to give that a shot, you can, that's another quick link. And we do include this presentation on our webpage. Will this presentation be applicable to an elderly person on Medicaid enrolled in PPP? So PPP is available to any NJ FamilyCare member that qualifies for PCA based on the outcome of the assessment. So the response would be yes, it can apply to someone who is an elderly person. They're enrolled in Medicaid and they need personal care assistance supports. They would also be able to follow these guidelines, because it will take them to the same conclusion with how to request, do the application, and apply. Okay. Let's see. Under 18, children who are cared for by an adult at home who would otherwise be nursing home facility also qualify for PCA PPP. If there's a child under the age of 18 and there are health needs and supports that may not align with a child's milestones, there is a consideration in that PCA assessment, because it's based on the individual. So if there's a challenge with an ADL task, that can be assessed for need. However, there will be other tasks that if someone is under the age of 18, it is deemed that the household is responsible for providing those tasks, such as folks do laundry as a family. However, is there an enhanced need for additional laundry support or something that creates a clear designation that this individual is not going to meet the established age-related tasks or development tasks. So we also, for children that have challenges where they maybe need additional support with another ADL, and based on that individual need, they may be assessed for more hours. So each person is their own person, and the best way to determine if that is the applicability is to request that PCA assessment from your health plan. Is it true that if you have a CMO and perform care, you are automatically approved for Medicaid, hence PPP? I do not run the CSOC program, but I can say that if a child meets eligibility and they have they're Medicaid eligible and enrolled, then that child can receive a PCA assessment. Just be mindful of the nuances that I just mentioned. If the assessment need is met without additional needs, or it is included in that milestone, the MCO may deem that this is, yes, this is a additional service need here, or this is, the responsibility of an adult in the home. I don't control the PCA assessment portion, but yes, if someone is enrolled in Medicaid, they can request a PCA assessment, and then if there are hours, request PPP. I hope that provides a little better clarity around that question. Let's see. Okay, so there's a question here. How can you pay someone less than the minimum wage in order to get the hours needed? So essentially, I know this question, so the best way to answer a question related to wages and the budget. This may, I'm hoping that it's clear enough. If not, feel free to reach out directly to ask a question to our team to provide a clear response directly to you. Essentially, the basics are minimum wage, and the wages are determined, and that wage is then anticipated as something that you bill against in those service hours. So when we talked through a little bit ago, determining all those, there's all fees, there's that 12.5% that we take that comes out, but there's also check processing fees, workers' comp fees, etc. Once those things are calculated in the budget, the dollar amount that's available is the dollar amount that's available unless there's an updated or a change to the PCA assessment. So if the budget amount is the same, but the wage changes, I kind of mentioned that earlier, it's billing against that same dollar amount, but billing against it at a higher rate. So it decreases the amount of service dollars because of the wage the worker is receiving. I hope that's helpful. Let's see. Okay, so I got a good question here specific to having someone that is able to take a shower versus but needs queuing support versus someone who needs help with taking a shower. So as far as PCA services, the way we look at it is if an aide, PCA aide, certified home health aide, is coming to provide services, that person would be there to help directly with showering. or bathing or whatever, something specific to that task. Queuing is not considered a PCA related task. It's not a hands-on task, it's a queuing. And queuing does not meet the PCA determination of service needs, because we don't pay an agency to send someone over to provide reminders. We would send a PCA individual to provide that service. Where there's the ability to provide that service uniquely to the individual, it's the time of day, who's providing it. Do you want to use more time showering because that's where you need more assistance and a little less over here? It's how you distribute that plan in your cash management when you're building that out, that you decide, or you decide on behalf of someone that you are supporting. Okay. If there are future budget cuts to NJ FamilyCare Medicaid, will that affect the monthly hours that we are presently receiving? I don't think so. I have not heard anything of that nature. And if and when that comes, that would be clearly a discussion. You would get more feedback from your health plan and clarification around that. To date, I have not heard anything of that nature. Okay, if a person is receiving SSI, does that impact eligibility for PPP? No, if you're eligible for Medicaid, regardless of how you're eligible for Medicaid, if you are enrolled with a health plan and have PCA assistance needs, you may request PPP. I will note though, and this is an important one, if you're an individual providing support for someone enrolled in PPP and receiving wages, that is calculated against any federal benefits. Here at Medicaid, they do not use the PPP wages when determining financial, but it will be included. So it would be things for SNAP benefits, federal housing, things like that. They do calculate that wage. So wanted to put that out there because I think that's a big one that folks may not always recognize, and we don't want you to get caught, or if you're sharing information with someone, make sure they're aware of that, because we don't want them to not know that it could be impacting another benefit. Okay, if I'm going to be a caregiver for my father, will I receive a 1099? You'll actually receive a W-2. It's when you get hired, you're hired on as a staff person. You'll fill out the W-4 form and you will receive a W-2 based on your tax filing status that you submitted at the time. Okay. All right. If hours need to be increased after a period of time, how easily is that done and what is the process? So if there's a change in condition that you know that the individual is requiring more support and assistance, feel free to outreach your health plan and request a new assessment based on a change in condition. They may say, well, what's different? That changed. This information will, this is something that they will talk you through, but that's your first outreach, is to contact your health plan. A person should be an American citizen so right now for individuals that are enrolling in PPP, the requirement is a Social Security Administration number. So right now, because of the way the program is designed, as I noted earlier, the employer of record is the participant, even if that participant is a minor. So that is the requirement. So if we have minors at the moment that do not have a Social Security number, it's a challenge to add them to the program. That does not necessarily have the same impact for workers, but does impact the ability to enroll because of the employer identification requirement. Can I be the AR if I'm a single parent? So let's be clear on that one. That's a great question. So if you have an individual that requires the support of an authorized representative, you can be that authorized representative, but you can't work for them. You would want to look for different support people to provide that care. However, if being the paid caregiver is the more important piece, I recommend finding an authorized representative from either, is there a family member, a dear friend, are you part of an organization where there's someone who's involved in your life? I would recommend making that decision because that AR can then work with the parent who is providing care, but they can't do both. We can have one parent as the authorized representative and the other parent as the worker. That is allowed. So I hope that's helpful for some folks. Let's see. Just to clarify, it's a W-2 that's issued to workers. Okay, great question about the PCA assessment versus the NJ CAT. So the NJ CAT is very involved, high level, intense questions. I've had the opportunity to see that assessment that is intense. It's based on functional criteria, and that's what DDD utilizes as part of their criteria process through their assessment. PCA is a strictly clinical assessment, and therefore it has, when it's in the state plan, as we call it, part of managed care, it's going to have a clinical requirement, largely because it is a PCA benefit. So it needs to be assessed by a nurse and reviewed at the health plan by their clinical team, where the MCO has nothing to do with the NJ CAT. And that is based on individual experience and knowledge of the individual with input, where PCA is an assessment using the state tool that has to be done by an RN in order to be considered a valid assessment. Let's see. Okay, this is also a great question. Can aid help with tasks outside of the home, such as attending school or activities? So to be clear, PPP does not provide that type of service that is not aligned to a clinical need. So if there are supports for attending school activities in the community, DDD is definitely the experts in providing that type of guidance and support. Okay. Okay. So this is a really helpful question. So we have an individual who just moved, family that just moved here from New York and used self-direction in New York, but now moved to New Jersey. So the challenge here is that New Jersey's criteria and New York's criteria aren't the same, and the enrollment process expectations are not the same. If there's, so whatever process is in place with New York, that would necessarily, that would have to sever, would have to end, and then the individual would have to begin again applying in New Jersey. We don't trade that information with New York. We don't coordinate transitions between states because the requirements and the programs themselves vary greatly. So I hope that is helpful. Okay, this is a question that I want to clarify real quick. So there's a question that NJ FamilyCare was taking management of the program in-house. So to clarify, we are at PPP, have opened up to our health plans the opportunity to contract directly with a fiscal intermediary vendor of their choosing. So at the moment, this is something that is in process. We are reviewing and working directly with our health plans about this process. I can share we have one health plan that is looking to move to a new vendor, and the other health plans at this time are planning to stay with PPL. So Horizon NJ Health is looking to acquire or procure a new vendor, while Aetna, Fidelis Care, United Healthcare, and WellPoint will be staying with PPL at this time. So just wanted to provide that. There is not an official date of transition because the state has a very rigorous readiness review process. And until all of those requirements are completed and met, a transition date will be pending. We will be sure to communicate about when that is happening. One of my biggest lessons that I've learned from your community is that we got to communicate and we got to tell each other as many things as we possibly can. And we meet monthly during with a community transitions work group. We do ask that we're always looking for folks that would like to attend, but our preference is that the folks that come are directly connected to the program. Do you work on behalf of a family member? Are you an advocate? Things that provide context to the conversation so that when we're talking through solutions, recommendations, and next steps, better process, we want to hear from the folks that are in the community receiving those services. Something that is available on our website is that if you would like to be a part of that, we provide information on how to join. So we would love to have more families and caregivers and community supports to be a part, give us feedback. One of our biggest takeaways is how to be more engaged in our community. And you're a huge part of our community, and we want to make sure that we're showing up in better ways and communicating about the program. So that is part of that process. Communication is a big piece, some more to come. Let's see. So does Medicaid have a disability waiver? Okay, so this question I think is more specific to Medicaid eligibility, where I know enough to be dangerous, but we can always take that back. Or if you have a direct question specific to someone, please submit them to us through our general webpage, or I'm sorry, email, so that we can review and research a question so that we can provide valuable feedback that way. Let's see. So, okay. So here is one. So there's an individual who was enrolled in NJ FamilyCare, but couldn't access the program. Okay. So a change that has happened. So previously there was PPP was not provided to every single plan option in NJ FamilyCare. That has since been updated. The only time there may be an issue, I think, is if there is a facility engagement. So if someone's enrolled in a facility, you can't receive PCA during that time because the services are being provided there. So it may be a unique nuance, but Medicaid itself updated our programs to make sure that PCA and PPP is available. If that, I see now that this individual is 18, so no longer has that issue, but want to confirm that yes, Plan A, B, C, and D may request PCA, and if that need is there, can enroll in PPP. Okay. That's a good question too. So individuals enrolled with Health Plan A, they have a PCA assessment, everything's in place, they're in the program, but they've decided to move to Health Plan B. What happens with all of that work, that paperwork, et cetera? What happens between the health plans? So something that we have put in place operationally is the continuity of care. So the receiving health plan, the new health plan, needs to maintain the CMP budget and hours as a continuity piece. So it should be seamless to the individual. But the MCO, the new MCO will conduct their own PCA assessment because they want to make sure they're authorizing services based on their assessment. So continuity of care, and then yes, a new assessment will be scheduled with the new health plan. And I see we only have a few minutes left, so I wanted to defer to Kyoko to determine if I could answer a couple more, or if now is a good time to close things out. I just want to make sure we're getting all of our needs met.
Thank you, Becky, but I would defer to Margaret.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I apologize, Margaret. I defer to you. My apologies.
No, that's okay. That's okay. I mean, if you have a couple more minutes.
Yeah, I can do a couple more.
Okay.
Family care, PPP fund, I thought there. Okay, so there's a couple questions about who funds this program, what type of program it is. That's a great question. So PPP is a 1915J self-direction program. So it is through CMS. We have approval in our state plan amendment and our coordination of care, and it is in the 1115. And that means that we have, because it's Medicaid, we do a federal match of fundings for the PCA/PPP services. And the funding that we use for that is through our health plan. So it's built through the health plan reimbursement process. I could bore you with that, but unless you're really tired, I could put you right to sleep. But the other piece of that process is on DDD. DDD is run through our fee-for-service payer mechanism, meaning the state is that direct. Instead of it being through a health plan, it's direct, as we understand, fee-for-service. So that is a different financial model as opposed to managed care. So yes, the funding is coming from CMS, is like the wallet or the bank, but it trickles down into different programs, requirements, and expectations, clinical assessment versus functional assessment. They all have their own rules and requirements, and that's how the funding streams are managed. I hope that wasn't too confusing. I think I confused myself. And then there's a question. DDD is for 18 to 21 and over only. What about the younger children that need services? So we do recognize that kids do need help. So that's part of what I was talking about earlier, that if there is an individual that has needs, hands-on activity, daily living needs, even if you're under the age of 18, you can request a PCA assessment, and that assessment should take into consideration that individual person, especially a child under the age of 18, what their needs are, and if they're above and beyond a, as I noted, milestone expectations, because every individual is different and every child's needs are unique, specifically if we're dealing with additional support needs. And I was going to do one more. Let's see, can we switch from one program to another if you're not happy with that particular program? So I'm going to clarify, I'm going to answer that question based on my understanding, which is if you're in Health Plan A and you're not crazy, about Health Plan A, you can go to another health plan within the PPP program. So yes, you can move between MCOs based on your utilization of the program. And if you'd like to try it with another health plan, you can do that. But you remember, you have to disenroll from Health Plan A and enroll with Health Plan B. So just wanted to clarify that. And with that, I want to just take a moment to thank Margaret and the Planning Council for inviting me and having this opportunity to share the PPP with you. So I'll turn it over. Thank you for putting the contact information also below. So I turn it back to you, Margaret. Thanks.
Okay. Thanks everyone for attending. If you attended, you should get a video of this presentation, so hopefully it'll be helpful to you. And you know, you're already on our mailing list, so you'll get notification of our next meeting. If you weren't on our mailing list, our email address, believe it or not, I have to write this down every time, is an acronym: Regional Family Support Planning Council. So it's RFSPC1@gmail.com. So, you know, if you'd like to be added to our mailing list, we're happy to do that. And we'll see you in another month. Thanks so much again, Becky. Really appreciate your help.
Thanks again for having me.
All right. Take care. Good night.
Bye.
Night, everyone.